Ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, we're going to call the Portage Township board meeting of December 17, 2024 to order. Roll call. Muhammad's here.
Ryan here.
Okay, we have
I
quorum.
want to approve the agenda.
I will motion to approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of our minutes from November 19th.
I didn't see anything that needed to change.
So we'll approve the minutes and public comment.
A vote on approval of minutes.
A vote on the approval of minutes. My bad.
All right. Yeah, I know it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, public comment. Anybody from the public?
No.
All right, public comment closed. New business.
All right, so I'd like to introduce our first item here is we would like to do staff training as we did last year. So I have a travel form here in accordance with our new policy because we are staying in town, but it's technically travel because it would involve hotel nights and meals and that kind of thing. Rental of a AV and a conference room. So this will be for staff training. And we are looking to do a board retreat next. That will likely include a visit out of town like we did last year. We've identified some townships that we'd like to visit, probably the Fort Wayne area, maybe over in Porter County. So that would be the board retreat that we would do. So this will be just for the staff. Some communications, leadership, organizational training. My wife, Olivia, has been doing this for the township. But it's been a lot to ask of her to do for free. She's been doing it for free essentially.
Right.
So, I asked her who her number one choice is that could take over from this on an official capacity. And she recommended this lovely lady who is here today with us, who is experienced in this arena and who is joining us today. Her name is Sherry Culp.
Yes.
And, we all knew her as Sherry Pete, but it is Sherry Culp. And I've asked her to come here to do a little presentation for the board on what she will do for the staff here and the type of training that she provides. And then she is going to stick around for questions. So I've got a little presentation that I will do here, and I'm happy to turn it over to Sherry.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you all for having me this afternoon. It's my pleasure to be with you all. Let's get started. So we'll start with a little bit about me. I am proud to say that I am a native of South Bend, born and raised. I am a second generation graduate of Washington High School. I also went to IU South Bend my freshman year. And when I came back to do my graduate work, I was very involved in the community, interning at the IU South Bend Civil Rights Heritage Center. Also starting a fellowship at the IU South Bend Center for a Sustainable Future, and in between then, volunteering at the Center for Homeless. My expertise lies in public service, nonprofit management, positive psychology, strength finders, emotional intelligence, and more. My undergrad is in sociology from IU PUI, and I pursued my master's in public service in public service management. I am an avid learner, so I decided to continue my education in positive psychology, getting my certification in personal executive coaching in positive psychology, and continue my education through the International Coaching Federation, which I have my international credentials from that organization, which allows me to continue to get updates on industry standards, on how to ensure that I deliver superior service when it comes to executive coaching and workshop facilitation. We dive into so many different disciplines when it comes to professional development, such as emotional intelligence, which I'll talk more about later. After completing my graduate degree, I started a short stint at the Kroc Center, serving as a director of volunteer engagement, and found myself after that serving as the advisor and director for community outreach for then Mayor Pete for the 2 terms that he was serving as mayor here in South Bend. Shortly before his term concluded, I found myself serving in a nonprofit organization in Elkhart County as their vice president of community outreach and advocacy, which allowed me to work closely with legislators at all levels of government to ensure that individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities have the resources they need to thrive in our community. After serving that position, I had the opportunity to serve as Chief Strategic Initiatives Officer for the Greater Elkhart Chamber of Commerce, which allowed me to, again, work with legislators on all levels to ensure that resources were available for those who wanted to start their own business and thrive in the Greater Elkhart community. So my professional background ranges from, again, public service, nonprofit, as well as for-profit as well. And that all impacts on how I deliver my services in my coaching practice. As a 40th birthday gift to myself, I started my business, Unearth Coaching and Consulting. This is my second go round as an entrepreneur. I do not give up. I do not fail when it comes to pursuing my dreams. And in my practice, I focus on a few things. I do have a niche, and a few of my niches are focusing on empowering leaders and executives to lead with greater confidence and resilience. I make sure that I coach my clients to be more confident, and that's where Strength Finders come in. And I focus on not only building their confidence, but also ensuring that they have the skills to understand their emotions. Emotions, I tell people all the time, IQ will get you in the door, but EQ will keep you in the room. And so that is the focus of my practice when working with clients, especially when they want to build that resilience. Because as we all know, working in a company, working in an organization, things can get a little rocky. So how do you make sure that you're grounded internally so that way you could be grounded externally? So that is some of the focus area that I pay close attention to when serving my clients. I have experience in coaching. Again, I started my business when I was 40, so 3.5 years ago, and I am an experienced public speaker as well as workshop facilitator. I have presented workshops with the Firefly Summit, which was a couple years ago. I had the opportunity to speak before the entire student body for Golson College and also speak before young professionals in St. Joseph and Elkhart County. I just wrapped up a workshop for a public agency after 4 months engaging with each member of the executive team in one-on-one coaching. So wait.
No.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So my experience in facilitating workshops and executive coaching is definitely before I started my practice here in South Bend. We can go to the next slide.
Lost Jason.
But before we go to the next slide, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm happy to expand upon that.
Cheryl.
Hi,
Cheryl made it.
Welcome, welcome. Am I in your seat?
No, no,
You're not
she's
in my
right here.
seat.
She goes right
Okay.
here. So Cheryl, this is Sherry. We're talking
It's
about
I
doing,
we know.
to see you.
we're talking about doing a staff development training
Mhm.
workshop. And she is reviewing the type of training that she would provide to our employees.
Okay.
And I can give you a quick snapshot of what all I went through right there on that slide.
Oh, I know you. I'm fine.
Yeah. I wanted to share with you that I am internationally credentialed and certified to be an executive coach. And my areas of expertise are empowering executives and leaders on how to lead within their organizations with greater confidence and resilience. But you know all the other stuff about me.
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. This is the 100,000 foot view of the areas of focus that the 2-day workshop will be on. And I shared with you earlier about my experience and expertise in emotional intelligence, which a lot of that training took place when I was receiving my training through the coaching and positive psychology base out of Atlanta to receive my certification. And so we're going to talk about the big picture of emotional intelligence. And there's 4 quadrants within emotional intelligence. That's self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. And a lot of this came into play, especially when I worked in public service for the close to 10 years that I did. And I'm going to leverage that understanding, but also my educational experience to tailor this workshop to connect with those that will be participants, of the workshop. We will dive into community outreach and engagement, fostering empathy and understanding. And we will dive into 3 of the 4 quadrants to ensure that the participants understands the power of empathy. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. And so we will dive into what that means and how to build impactful relationships with the residents that they serve. Building leadership and confidence for local government excellence. This is centered around not only how to empower the participants to feel more confident in the skills that bring to the table, but for them to understand that that confidence is already there, right? How to bring it to the surface. And that's one of the reasons why I coined my business Unearth, because we're going to dig deep and uncover things that have been buried over time. And last, we're going to focus on enhancing public service through communication and resilience skills. So communication is going to be two-ply focus, if you will. So focusing not on just verbal communication, but nonverbal communication, because between 85 to 90% of communication is nonverbal. And so we'll dive into what that means and how that connects, and how the delivery impacts your relationship with not only your team, but the individuals that you all are here to serve. And lastly, the benefits of the workshop. Again, for individuals, it builds confidence and leadership presence. It enhances, decision-making and communication skills. For the organization, it boosts teams' performance, foster a culture of continuous growth. And I will dive into the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, and how that impacts one's delivery and engaging with the people that they serve. And then again, it increases employee engagement and retention. You can go to the next slide.
Sure. And just a note here, so one of the big things that we're looking to address with this is we feel like we've made a lot of strides culturally in the office, and we've talked a lot about that, but de-escalation, people come in a heightened state of stress one way or another. So, you know, when we talked a lot with Sherry, we want our employees to understand that there's sometimes cultural insensitivities that exist. And as she said, the nonverbal cues, we have sometimes, I don't want to say fights, but there's kerfuffles that happen. And you can tell the staff members are confused at what they did that would have upset this person. And, you know, we'll evaluate it afterwards, and it said, well, I know you, and I know you didn't mean it this way, but it sounded like you said this, you know, and so that's part of what we'd like Sherry to help us address.
Absolutely.
Well, and that was kind of from last year, right? Some of the feedback that I had heard is those kind of miscommunications and issues. And just like with my experience, most people don't, unless they've been trained or lived in different circumstances, like they don't develop those skills without a lot of support. So,
Sure.
And almost everything here is going between groups. So,
And this would include the leadership of the fire department as well.
Okay.
excellent. Okay, good.
I was actually gonna ask that, like, is it just your immediate staff but not
All of the staff, all township staff,
Yeah.
but not rank and file firefighters, the leadership of the fire department, but not the actual rank and file. That could be something we look at for the future, but they're not even in the door yet, so it was.
Well, I would just like not something as elaborate as this, but I still think, you know, the firefighters need to have something similar to the empathy side, because you're at somebody's house who is just burned down, or a lot of money is gonna have to be spent to fix.
Yeah.
And so they have to run into that same thing.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts later in the agenda here, but
Okay.
if we can put that down as an action item, Sam, that I will talk about that with Chief Downey, because I couldn't agree more, but that's
Okay.
certainly important.
And what I will also incorporate in these sessions is examples of the times that I have served in public service. And I understand the challenges, but also the rewards and the internal work that's needed to be effective in the role. So that will be brought up in other case studies as well. One thing that I tell people all the time, and don't ever grow tired of me sharing quotes. I'm a huge fan of words. Mohammed, you know that I'm a huge fan of words. And so I will share quotes throughout the presentation. This one states, the strength of the team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team. The other one that I share often is, if you can conquer the enemy within, the enemy without can do you no harm. And that to me is what is the core of emotional intelligence, self-awareness. If you can understand the genesis, why you respond the way you do, how it is perceived, and how can you do things differently. And so those are some of the things that we'll be diving in the workshop. So that is my presentation. Any questions?
I got one question. Is there going to be a poetry session up in there when it's over? I'm just asking, I'm just wondering. No, that's not a serious question, but, I just had to throw that out.
So this would be a 2-day workshop, for staff, and then I was explaining to them before we got here, Cheryl, we would like to do a board version of this as well. That includes us going to visit other townships again.
Okay.
We've got some in mind we're looking at doing, but this would be in January, over 2 days with Sherry here. So I really wanted her to come here, answer questions that folks have. in accordance with the new policy, we would ask for, authorization from the township board president. We do have this within the budget, within the training budget to do all of this, to do both retreats. So it's not an issue of that. It's just, here's an opportunity to ask questions or poke holes in it if there's something else that we should do.
I don't have any questions.
Anything further I should expand upon?
This is a sideline. It has nothing to do with this, but now that she's here, maybe she can come back one day with some of the other council people and we can talk about, our vision of improved rental housing.
Oh, yeah. Well, so to your point, Sherry actually provides a lot of different services. This is one she provides. Personal coaching
Right.
is another one that she provides that we'd like to look into in the future.
Mhm.
And that would absolutely fit into that.
Okay. Cause I'm working, that he came and picked up the thermometer.
Todd did.
Yes.
Text her about Todd.
And a sideline is bathroom with, I think, 55 degrees
Yeah, he said.
after it's been fixed.
All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything for Sherry, I appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you. Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
Good to see you again.
I'm gonna
Thank
get back
you.
her, stick here. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have the travel reimbursement form for.
Y'all have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you, Sherry. You too. Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Thank
a lot.
you.
All right, next item on here. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mom.
So you just need authorization for that?
We don't have to take a formal vote. It's not something that has to be voted on, but if you guys would prefer, it's totally up to you.
I don't.
We just passed a policy that requires 2 sign-offs now on travel,
Mhm.
the trustee and the board.
Okay.
So this one, the $7,000.
That's her invoice for the 2-day retreat for all the staff.
Mhm.
Because there's personal testing, the price is dictated by how many people are going through it.
Okay. How much is it per person?
Dive into that, pull it out.
How many people are you planning to send roughly?
12.
12?
Yeah, I think it sounds like 12. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
This is on par with what Olivia charges when she does these things.
Yeah.
So I didn't find it to be, I mean, it's a cost, I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, anytime you run into some training like this, it's going to cost.
So it's, yeah, and how it's always described is it's not just the day of, all the prep work she has to do.
Right.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also,
That kind of blew my mind a little bit. For every hour they've told me for every hour that they train, they will consider 8 hours of prep work. Or
Right.
something like that,
Yeah.
something crazy.
I mean, it's just kind of, confirming the cost and everything.
Yep, that's right. So,
I don't have any more questions.
I don't have any questions.
Next item.
Ron, you want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, next item, both of these items we discussed at our last board meeting. This was publicly noticed. This is the $160,000 in additional appropriation because we blew the budget immediately in the year because we hadn't received the bond money yet, but we had to pay for capital expenses, which then was reimbursed. So our cash reserves were unaffected by that, but basically from a budget standpoint, we need the additional appropriation, plus Cedar Glen, and the purchase of this building and now the eminent domain all took big hits to the legal side of the budget. So
this is,
the first resolution is the appropriation, the 29-2024. You would take them one at a time. And then the second one is what we did, what you do at the end of every year to balance out the budgets if you move the money around within the outside of the account series. That requires board approval as well. So later I have the budget as it's reflected before today. And then if these were to both pass, the budget as it would be reflected afterwards, showing that nothing was overspent, if that makes sense.
Okay.
okay, so this was in regards to, this is to replenish funds spent for legal expenses due to Cedar Glen.
Just in the budget, also capital improvements that were made to the building here and the William Street building.
Mhm.
We didn't get the bond money yet, and so you have to account for the money somehow, and so when we cut the check, it's accounted for out of the budget because the bond fund was not created yet.
Okay.
Everything else that came out of bond money afterwards was accounted to that fund.
Mhm.
But because of that, so if you wrote a check, we wrote a check for like $50,000 and it showed in our budget, You just blew that line item by 50,000.
Right.
We gave ourselves the money back from that fund when we received it, but you have to appropriate additional money because of it.
Okay, was there anything else on that list?
Those were the three main items.
Okay,
And you had Cedar Glen,
Legal
eminent
fees
domain.
and the purchase of the
and
building,
purchase of-
along with the capital expense. Yes.
So I need to make a motion, right?
Oh, yeah, this needs to be voted
Okay.
on. Yeah,
I move,
both of them separate.
okay, I'll do me separate though. I move the resolution 29-2024 be accepted.
I vote A. Let's say A, it's not A, so we don't. Let's say A or nay. Who's bringing the page up?
Okay. I got a second here, sir.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, so all in favor?
Cheryl, yes.
Mohammed, yes.
Ryan, yes.
So then resolution 3024 is moving that money around outside of the accounts within the fund to account for those various line items.
Okay.
Because as you recall, you put the money into an account series, but then we track money with sub items. So this moves that money around into those sub items.
So the appropriated money, where is that coming from exactly?
It comes from cash reserves.
Okay, and that was actually one thing we talked about last year was having like cash reserves listed as well on these things, so we know, like,
When we do I think it's top here. When we do the budget every year, the cash reserves is listed in there. So again, we're not going on negative. In this case, we're not going negative $160,000 into cash reserves because we paid ourselves back from the bond money for part of it.
Okay,
But I could, at the end of the year here, we could run another cash reserves report. It's another item on the agenda. We have not gotten our 2025 budget approval back from the state yet, which is wild. But when I get that, we will want the board to come and reapprove the new budget. So I will present the cash reserves at that time.
Okay.
You have a nice clean view of where everything stands.
is it not reasonable to have that included with like the monthly funds reports?
Where would that be? I don't know what that gets listed out in because we only track whether we met the budget or not. So it's like if you're blowing the budget, then you're going into cash reserve. So the cash reserve doesn't change. Does that make sense? Whatever you plan to end the year with in cash reserves, unless you go into the budget deeper. So for this one, I could have just say, now the cash reserve is this amount,
Right,
but that will also depend on next year's budget. So it would change next month.
right, but also for me as a kind of person with the policy and budgeting background, like seeing what's in there and making, just having that as a reminder in case there's emergency isn't a bad thing. I think
We could do that.
that's a
It would-
transparency.
Yeah, I could even email it to you however you want. It wouldn't change from month to month.
Well, that's kind of what's supposed to happen.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, it wouldn't change. So anytime, I can run it anytime and it would not change because you authorize anything.
How many months do we keep on hand for cash reserve?
Well, it really depends. But there is in each fund, it really depends on the month, right? But half a year, say, 6
Okay.
months. Yeah. Something like that.
All right, yeah,
Mhm.
that's just what I was wondering, so.
But I will absolutely send that to you for sure. We will have to go through that anyway here whenever we hear about our budget.
Good.
So you will get a clean version of where everything stands exactly.
So we basically need to do this resolution, right? Okay, I move that we accept resolution number 30-2024.
Second. All in favor?
Cheryl, I.
As an action item, we will provide those final budget numbers, as Ryan noted.
So resolution number 30-2024 is passed. The next item is our meeting schedule.
This one requires a board vote. I went ahead and took the liberty of creating a board schedule based on the usual third Tuesday of the month. The only change to that is January 7th is the first Tuesday of the month, which is the reorganization meeting. It's a very quick meeting, 15 minutes, where you elect board officers, which is required. So every one of these dates otherwise should be the third Tuesday of the month.
Okay,
But the board would have to pass that, and then I will advertise it all at once to the Something fits.
I don't see any reason to change it. Yeah,
Not at the moment, no.
well, I say, unless otherwise noticed, so we can.
Unless otherwise, you can change it at any time, yeah.
Okay.
So make a motion to approve our meeting schedule for 2025.
Second,
All in favor?
Carol, I.
And that will be
You want
added
to-
to the website.
You want them to sign this?
They don't do sign.
No, okay.
Then the township trustee 2025 holiday schedule.
Yeah, that doesn't require a vote. I just wanted you to put eyes on it. This is.
No Christmas.
I don't know.
Taking Christmas off, Christmas Day off.
What? What day is Christmas this year?
He's like Christmas Day
It's
off.
on there.
I was like, what?
What a monster. This is just the normal schedule that we've been keeping. Juneteenth, it lies on a Thursday this year or next year, so, we were gonna close the office Thursday and Friday.
Mhm.
Memorial Day, the township historically has always taken the Friday before off. The only other one, Dingus Day is what we add on here that falls outside of the federal holidays, but we've been shutting the office down on Dingus Day.
Mhm.
But if there's no notes there or questions, I can move on.
I mean, this is your schedule. I mean, like.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean,
I'm
you know.
not gonna say about your schedule.
Well, you might. Okay, so the next thing here is, again, doesn't require a board vote, but we want to make you aware. We now have roughly 60 employees
Mhm.
and now 5 buildings, 2 township buildings, 3 fire stations. And Sammy can answer questions here, Alana, if we have them, but it's starting to get a little unwieldy when it comes to who's ordering things, how are they ordering them, ensuring that internal controls exist.
Mhm.
So there are platforms out there that give you that control, and this is one of those platforms that we have been reviewing the last couple months, lots of meetings with them. What this is it's an ordering platform. So all of your accounts, your week ADT, your internet bills,
Mhm.
but then your Amazon accounts, EMS equipment, all talk to this platform.
Mhm.
And you can give the ability for, say, an assistant chief or a battalion chief to submit orders. They need EMS supplies, right? Medical supplies. Well, we didn't want a situation to exist where they're all sitting running around with a township credit card.
Right.
And we also didn't want a situation to exist where we felt like we'd have to hire somebody that would just manage just this type of thing. And that would be really expensive. So this is sort of a technological solution to that problem in that you can give people authorization to submit orders, say an assistant chief, a battalion chief, people here at the office, Connor from the Nourish program. But those orders still have to be approved
Okay.
by someone before they're submitted. So that's what this platform would allow us to do is people can come in there, they can come submit their orders, and then Alana would have to approve them. And then I review those on a monthly basis like I do the rest of so it's sort of like double and triple controls, but allows for empowerment. There's no bottlenecking of ordering things. They also search for cheaper options automatically. So if you're ordering gauze from this supplier here, they'll automatically say before you do that, there's a 15% cheaper option here.
Mhm.
So we are undergoing a test with them for 2 months before deciding if we're going to sign a full contract. It's not cheap. It would cost $18,000 a year to use this platform. They're going to charge us $2,000 for 2 months while we test it out. So we're going to do this trial run and see how it goes. And the 18,000 is a lot of money. Now, hiring somebody and making this part of their job duties is even more money. And that's really what led us to pursue this. So this doesn't require a board vote, but if the board had thoughts on it, had a reason to put the brakes on, had concerns, I wanted to bring it to you now. Come February, we would make a final decision based on our experience of how it went, getting all our things in here. Is there other solutions to that? Did I cover everything there, Sam, you think? Lana, anything else kind of explaining that? I was trying to.
In addition to savings that you may garner, they carry that forward to the next invoice.
That's right. So that's the other thing. We wouldn't be sending 20 checks a month either. This company pays all those bills for you, and then they invoice you when actually they'd be doing us weekly. So every week we would get, after Lana approves everything that we're gonna buy, you know, this company pays for all that and orders it and gets it sent however we said for it to be sent. They'll even call a company. If it's not online, they'll actually call the company and place the order, you know, physically via phone. And then at the end of the week, they send us an invoice, shows what the invoice, Lana has set up the invoice to say, this is the budget that it comes out of, all that kind of stuff. So the idea is efficiency.
How much do we spend on buying this kind of stuff on average?
Well, now with the fire territory, we have no idea. I
Yeah,
mean,
we don't know yet.
tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay,
There's also time saved and other things.
No.
Those are things that could be added in to kind of justify that cost. So that's something I was thinking, because I mentioned, called yesterday to mention about looking at the issue of our use of contractors, like the amount we're spending on different services and such.
Vendor report.
And this would be part of that, but it's could also be something that we could use to like, look, we were having a person paying for these issues. If we're having people going back and forth about whether to buy from here or here, like, you know, this is all outsourced and this would save. Like, that's a good way to,
Yeah.
again, justify those costs.
And that's where we were aligned with your thinking completely on the whole. It was a big price tag and it was like a shock when we saw it, but hiring somebody to do this for half the week would cost, you know, 4 times as much as well,
Right.
you know? And then we don't want to get into a situation where, especially out the gate with fire territory, that it's sloppy. Who's ordering what, what's going on? I mean, toilet paper, you know, paper towel. I mean, think of the most minute things that the fire station might need. You know, this would be the ordering platform for it. So,
After 2 months, yeah, I mean, progress report maybe?
yeah, absolutely. No, February, we would come to you to say we'd like to enter into this contract.
here's what my concern is. All of these places are national corporations. So where can we fit in local?
Yeah, that was a thought.
I just printed that off of their website.
Okay,
This is just their demo because I didn't have something great to show you.
okay,
But you add all your vendors
Yeah.
to this.
We drive
That's what
that,
Lana's been
so
working on.
they don't just say you buy from Staples or, you know, National Brands, Costco. If you have a local printer, you know, that's, or a local,
They do our brochures. Tom,
Yeah.
our craft does our brochures.
Or
They add
like
them.
that.
Yeah,
we say we wanna buy these, put that in Tom's and, yeah, or whatever.
whoever it is.
okay, that's all I was
Yeah.
concerned about, was to be able to, you know, when possible, to order locally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. So the local, like I said, and then even if they don't use a website, this platform will call them and
Okay.
place the order for you. I literally printed this off of their website demo.
Okay, that's
I didn't
fine.
have something better.
But yeah, we drive we like, there's somebody we wanna use for whatever that is. And there's also like limits too, so somebody can't just go and, but besides everybody approving orders, you know, can't just go in there and spend tens of thousands of dollars on a one time.
That's what I was
There's like a
thinking
check and
happening.
balance to it.
And we were concerned about that.
Right, and that's like, I reached out to State Board of Accounts too to verify all those things, yeah, and that, to make sure that.
Yeah, she did. She ran it. Alex has been involved with it
Yeah.
as well to make sure that we're not getting cross.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking with all the firefighters added in and everything else, like,
Revire things.
it's very centralized, so you are approving everything that happens. So,
It all flows through this office. That's right.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'll keep you updated though. I will come
Yeah.
back with.
I mean, to me, it makes sense. That was my only concern.
It makes sense.
It's just something. All right, here's gets interesting. Alex may have to come off mute. We actually have had movement on the Portage Manor Cemetery after 18 long months. And then just a few hours ago, we had more movement. So we were all set to ask you to pass this resolution, accepting the Portage Manor Cemetery. The commissioners will pass a similar resolution next Tuesday. In addition, the county is offering about $15,000 in the remaining ARP money that has to be spent or at least appropriated by the end of the year. So I have a sub-agreement here for us to review and approve, and then they would dedicate that $15,000 to the township for us to make whatever capital costs that we have out there. They did have a surveyor come out they came out and platted the area and decided where the cemetery was going to be. And then in the last 48 hours, Alex called me and said, well, guess what? They found an old survey that John McNamara found. And, oh yeah, he did find bodies going well into the woods or into this area. Basically, this is government work for you. The old survey was correct and it showed that the bodies that are buried out there extended farther than the current survey showed.
Mhm.
Alex, happy to let you jump in here, but the suggestion is asking our board to today, because time is of the essence, asking our board today to agree to approve the sub-agreement that we will accept $15,000 from the county in ARP money, but tabling the resolution on accepting the cemetery because they're gonna have to go out and do, basically make sure that the lines are correct. Alex, did I explain that correctly?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. So, um, up until just hours ago, the plan was, and the arrangement between the county and the township was for the deed to be executed for the cemetery parcel as it's been platted to be transferred, and for this $15,000 in American Rescue Plan money to be allocated to the township for improvements to the cemetery, fence maintaining, stuff like that. Um, so with this new development, the county now feels that that there's bodies outside of the of the platted land, and they want to tie this up with a neater bow. And so they need to go back to the drawing board, use the survey that was conducted to identify just how far out those bones are buried, and then include that in a new plat. So at least the property transfer aspect kind of goes back to the drawing board a little bit, but the pressing matter here is the county needs to allocate this $15,000 before the end of the year. And so there's attached to that resolution is a subrecipient agreement that we've negotiated with the county that will allow for those funds to be allocated and used by the township, really at the township's discretion over a period of time. As long as that is executed prior to the end of the year, I think we're in good shape. And so that's the recommendation to the board tonight, to approve the agreement, table the resolution, and then once the county has it replatted, we'll revisit the real estate transfer.
Who's paying for the replatting?
The county and the city will have to do that. The
So we're
township at
not
this
gonna
point
be,
doesn't have an ownership interest, so
Okay.
there is nothing on the table right now that says the township would have anything to do with the replatting.
okay.
So by taking on the funding, are we accepting any immediate obligations with that then?
No, the qualification that comes with this type of money. So these are federal dollars that flowed through the state and county government through the American Rescue Plan Act. So there are, it's restricted, but it's restricted with an asterisk. So there are certain things that this money can be used for. It's not like a general obligation where the township can use this for anything. It needs to be germane to maintaining the cemetery, which the county has identified as a permissible purpose under federal law, and I agree with that. So no, there isn't an immediate obligation. The important part is more from an administrative standpoint, that this money is allocated prior to the end of the year, but there's no obligation that it be spent by the township, really in any time frame.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we table resolution 3124.
I'll second that. That's the
This was the
Accepting the
real
real
estate.
estate.
Okay.
All in favor? Of tabling resolution?
Carol,
3124?
Ryan, I.
Mohammed, aye. And then,
Authorizing
Wait, I have all the
the
other
trustee
ones.
to, the next vote would be to authorize the trustee to
Right,
execute
right.
that contract, to accept the $15,000.
Yeah, and that can just be an oral motion.
This one, no, because
okay,
we're
well, I
not,
just
you
make
guys
the
are
motion that
tabling
the
this one.
trustee can accept
I've
the
got the pen.
$15,667.
That's a problem, sorry.
This is just a board. Yeah.
Didn't have to say anything.
Before that, I just have to make a statement. It has bothered me, and nothing can be done about it, I understand, I just have to voice my opinion. It bothers me that, yes, we have to take the cemetery, but what bothers me is they sold a lot of stuff at Portage Manor, okay?
James Mishwaukee.
And that money should have come to maintain the cemetery. And the money went elsewhere, Mishawaka
Maintain a
City.
baseball.
You know, and I'm not against that part. I'm just saying the first obligation should have been to the cemetery. And I'm only saying that I thought what was done was wrong. And I've said my piece. Thank you.
You're here? I agree.
Wayne disagrees with that.
Yeah. All right, so we are in verbal agreement that we're gonna go ahead and take the 15,006. I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so there was only that.
All right, thank you for that. The next item, thank you, Alex. The next item I'd like also a vote on by the board. Same sort of discussion as far as the procurement platform goes is with the increase, and this is kind of what I was talking about, that I would get to is when you talk about training for the firefighters. We're finding our human resources needs are increasing. Somebody who, it would be nice to have somebody who's just dedicated to answering questions about the employee manual, making sure everybody has signed the manual and understands the manual, taking all insurance questions. Because we're now going to be self-funding, our medical insurance here, you know, for this department. So there's a lot of work that comes along with that. If there are employee disputes, having a third party that can come and help arbitrate that or hold people accountable through discipline. But then to your point earlier, Cheryl, someone who can go and find basically professional development opportunities for firefighters and lead those efforts out there. We didn't think it made sense to request that the board approve a human resources person, a full-time person right now. But what exists out there is the ability to bring in a fractional HR person. So someone who's, and this is an individual that that we had interviewed. She used to work for the Boys and Girls Club in Elkhart for several years doing HR, and she's had other HR related jobs. And she now works as a fractional HR consultant. So she would dedicate a certain amount of hours to the month to being our HR person. She would be that first line for firefighters, for township staff to go to her, and we would ask her to lead efforts, go through our employee manual. How much of this applies to the firefighters? Well, go out there and train them on that kind of stuff. When we're doing onboarding, someone who can say, okay, you need to sign up for your medical benefits and all that kind of stuff. So that's what this agreement here is, that we would like to try. We can break it basically at any time if it's not working out for us here. Her rates seem pretty reasonable compared to what exists out there. The rate we'd be looking at is around $3,000 to $4,000 per month if we were using her for, let's see here, 30 hours a month. Yeah, right. She would also do talent acquisition if we were going to share what we wanted to apply for folks. If we wanted to folks to apply for a job, she would go out to the CASAs, into the places and start recruiting the type of the folks that we're looking for their positions. So she could focus her job on recruitment. Basically all those type of things we could have this person doing. So I think it's worth us looking at doing and trying to see how it goes. If we don't keep her busy enough, we could back it down, but I'm, you know, I don't want to say I'm nervous, but I just want to make sure everything gets off on the right foot with the new fire territory and everything.
So would they also be doing payroll?
No.
Nothing like that.
No money, no. They would not be doing anything with the budget, nothing with payroll. That would still be handled by this office. No internal approval of money.
So their role would just be kind of the HR face person.
Yes, but a first line for questions and answers, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, as of now, it's me or Lana or Sammy taking an hour out of your day. Something comes up, you drop what you're doing because of the HR issue that's come up. I mean, I can take up half your day just like that. The idea is I would rather Lana and Sammy and myself spend our time on other things than having to deal with that day-to-day HR stuff. So it would free up the leadership to do other things.
And how much a month would she be doing?
30 hours.
Okay.
Maximum. It's billable. So if we don't use her for 30 hours, she wouldn't bill us for 30 hours.
Okay.
But that would be our maximum agreement with her.
Right.
If a job came up, obviously she's not doing talent acquisition unless we ask her to.
Right.
So aside from that day-to-day stuff, she would be available for the things you ask her to do.
Okay. Well, I think it makes sense to have someone in charge of HR, and I only say that because when I worked at the library, the number of small businesses that came in trying to understand this or that new HR law or
Exactly.
a question.
It's typically thought of if you are 50 to 75 employees or under, you don't want a full-time HR
Right.
person, but you do have HR needs,
Mhm.
and that's where we sit. That's what prompted this. The hours and hours and hours we've been spending on insurance and
Mhm.
other things,
Well,
but I'd like to get the board's temperature on that.
okay, what I like about it is if it turns out we say, oh, we don't need her that much, we can back it down, right?
Yeah, it's an hourly thing, that's right.
So it's not like we have to go back and renegotiate anything.
Nope, these are just the terms that we would agree to, are the rates. So if we only need her for 10 hours 1 month, she would bill us for 10 hours,
Okay,
much like our lawyer.
we've used a lot lately.
We saw what happened there.
Sorry, Alex.
Awful lot of lawyer comments at this meeting.
That's what happens when you don't come in person.
Yeah.
No, if
I
we was
mean-
here in person, we'd say the same thing.
That's true. I think it makes sense. So I guess there's nothing like that already with the fire territory people.
No, we haven't made any hires like that, and we weren't planning on it too. We weren't gonna hire a controller yet. Again, part of this is we don't have a 2025 budget approved yet, so we have no idea what our budget looks like. So we have taken no steps to make any additional administrative hires.
Okay, and they didn't.
The
have any-
possibility exists that come March, we all sit down, and if it's like, no, let's bring in someone who just does HR, I mean, that's the discussion. But we have not created job descriptions. This person would create job descriptions, would ensure that we're in compliance with the equal opportunity employer kind of stuff. Which we feel we are, but as we get bigger, it becomes more unwieldy.
Well, this is just my personal opinion. We need this at least this year, because there's gonna be a lot of changes in the federal government
Mhm.
and all, with the new administration about who knows what that might deal with,
Right,
pardon me,
right.
employee things.
Yeah.
And at least this year, we're gonna need somebody who's gonna tell us, okay, because this was struck down or this is what you gotta do, et
Good point.
cetera.
Yeah, who's keeping up on the law?
Yeah, somebody gotta do it.
And that's very, like I said, at the library, people would come in all the time, and that is very time consuming researching that
Very.
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So is this something we need to?
I would like a board approval, I think.
Well, I move that we contract with HR Life Cycle Partners to help us with our human resources needs.
Second.
Hold on, one last question. So this was Julia Clark is the person,
Mhm.
and you know her through,
I didn't know her.
what was it, like an application or? 'Cause you mentioned a process.
Oh, we
earlier.
asked around, people that did fractional HR consulting, and so we did kind of the research into a few different folks who did it. And then we interviewed her. We didn't interview anybody else, but we did interview her. And then she, is familiar to, our insurance agent who's worked with her before in the past.
Okay,
That was the process. But I'd never met her before. I don't think any of us had.
okay, yeah, no objections then. I'll also look to agree.
All right, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Also requiring board vote, our 2025 Health First Grant, as I said, was approved, $65,000. Basically, this is exactly what it was last year. What you have there in your packet is the contract that's drawn up by the county. It's essentially the same one that we did last year, so it does require board approval.
The only thing I would like is maybe Connor come in And give us kind of
It's actually fun. January, he's putting together a presentation for
Okay.
you to go over the year in summary.
right, that's what I'm
He's
gonna
got
say.
data that he has that he's planning to present,
Yeah,
as well as what the plans are for 2025. So your January board meeting will have that.
okay.
Science or is it you? Okay.
So I'm gonna go off and just guess that nobody has questions about this.
Wildly popular.
You know, like,
I look forward to that presentation myself. He collected surveys and everything from every class and he's got all the numbers and he's got a heat map that he's working on putting together so you can know where everybody lived, who participated. Yep. So we're asking him that's why he's not ready today, is the class just ended a
That's
couple
fine
weeks
with
ago.
me. Yeah,
I mean, it takes time. I mean, like, you run all those classes and then it just get over. It's gonna take time.
It was more time consuming than we thought it was going to be,
Put that
actually.
data
Yeah.
together for sure. And then you want the data to be correct, you don't wanna be rushing, you know, all of that. So
Fun, Connor is gonna make it look pretty too, and, yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I make a motion that we go ahead and vote on this thing.
And second,
All in favor? All right, thank you. Last thing under new business is, and I slept on, I would have sent this in November or put it on the agenda in November, is the Portage Township Assistant Guidelines we need to pass for 2025. I have not gotten any requested changes from the board and the staff have not proposed any changes actually this year based on experience. I know that we did a deep dive, but I also did not bring it up in November. So if you want to table it for January, we can. But I did bring one copy here, if you guys just wanted to pass it. You always have the right to re-review and all that stuff, but I didn't know if anybody had any burning thoughts on that one, so I brought it prepared to be signed and approved today. But if you want to table it, I understand.
well, what I would, for me, recommend, because I'm always the one making the changes, we go ahead and approve it, mail me out a copy, because we can always in March or whenever,
Any board, I mean, at any time you can.
Yeah. just to get it out of the way.
I'd rather actually table it for now so we can look at it properly in January and pass it. You know, it's been a year, we've had some other things happen and I wouldn't mind looking through it again if that's all right. It doesn't affect anything if we do it in January?
I think what I would just ask is that you make a motion, if you motion to table it till January, I would ask that you maybe just do then someone do a motion to operate on the existing guidelines
Okay.
until January. And I think then we're just covered if there's an appeal.
Okay,
All right,
If somebody really got fancy and brought a lawyer and they'd say, you didn't update your guidelines, you know? So that's up to you guys, but that's what I would ask in the event of that.
okay, I'd like to motion then to carry on under the current guidelines and table this discussion for January.
Second.
okay, I'll go along with it.
All right, no
Just
problem.
mail it to me.
No, I'll mail it to all you guys, this week. Or you know what, I sent it to you, so you have it. It was on the other email. But
Okay.
I'll send a special email, that's no problem. Okay, that's all I have for new business. All right, got through it.
Trustees, old business,
Old business, no old business.
trustees report.
All right, so let's start with, let's start with the budget or the assistance numbers now. That's this one here. So if you have any questions there, as you can see, big drop off in November, which is what happens every year. But this does not include December yet, and we already surpassed the amount of individuals helped this year's. Without including December, so, but we did have a steep drop off in November, versus last year. I don't really know what's driving that, frankly. Real services kicked in, but, definitely slow times in the office, so we're catching up on paperwork and stuff around the office, but, for January, I will have our full totals for the year.
Mhm. And I'm making that assumption, the reason it really shoots up in September is because,
Actually, I don't know why that happened. Oh, you know what that was?
what?
Codes for Kids.
Hmm?
Codes for Kids.
Okay, that's
Every one
right.
of those applications would have counted
Yes,
in Codes for
okay.
Kids there.
thank
So the
you.
folks who came in just for Codes of Kids, that's why that huge jump happened then.
Okay.
But generally, I don't know, it's hard to explain some of the jumps. June of last year was much higher than June of this year. We're really not sure why.
But then in, what was it, October? We had
But then,
spike this year,
October,
we didn't like,
Yeah, we had a huge spike in
Which is kind
October.
of strange.
So yeah, it was weird. Hard to explain sometimes.
And as has been sitting in my wallet for like 3 months now, Gladys wanted to donate to the cook.
Who did?
Guy.
Who's you?
Gladys.
Oh,
Yeah,
Gladys,
50.
okay.
So that was nice of her.
We will receipt that in for Miss
Yep, he did.
Gladys.
I thought he was pulling out for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening.
I
was like,
thought we were cool, but I
We'll
guess
receipt
not.
that
I don't have anything reported here. So what you have then is, the budget report, which includes,
Why does it drop so much in November?
real services kicks in.
Real
They
services kicks
process IHCDA funding.
Okay,
And so they have to go to real services. You know, if you recall, specifically speaking, they're supposed to go anywhere first. Everywhere first before here. We're not that strict, but we definitely make them go to real services because that's state funding. So yeah, people, I mean, out in the real world, people think like, oh, this is probably a busy time of year. I'm like, it's actually not. We save all our projects for
Yeah.
the office projects for now, like we're cleaning
And the
out the file
moratorium,
room. And
The moratorium is on too.
so yeah, well, that's the other problem, not to get too deep into the weeds. So when you're approved for that funding, you get a little bit of funding, maybe $500 towards your bills, but then that also means that the utility companies can't turn you off,
Right.
which is a good thing. But the problem is,
Come the spring.
On March, yeah, we'll see
they
'em.
come in here and they are specifically told you still need to be paying your bill, making payments towards your bill. And unfortunately, people will come in here not making any payments despite having income. And they expect us to pay now, catch them up on their bill, and we have to deny them,
Oh,
you know,
good.
based on that, because it wasn't as bad this year. I think we had some tough love last year.
Yeah.
And we did not have that as bad. I think people started to get it that even if you're paying $50 a month, $25 a month, you
You're
have to pay
showing
something
effort.
on this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Personal effort.
Personal effort
So,
is a big thing.
that has gotten better. We have a much better year this year when it comes to
Good.
that kind of stuff.
Because I know I've heard people talk about, you don't have to pay it all during the winter.
Well, then, yeah, then they get strapped with a $2,000 bill.
Yeah, you have $2,400 on gas or electric. bill,
Yeah.
you're
And then
like,
they come to
"What
us
is
and
that?"
we're, 250 is not gonna do nothing for that, so,
Exactly.
we're trying to change behaviors. So yeah, that's kind of why it drops off, but it'll start picking up here then in February for sure. That's why the staff training, board retreat, that's why we try to get that done in January, February. Cause we shut down the office for that. So then here you have the clean budget. I don't have anything super notable here. You have both, so I'm sorry if that's confusing, but
Actually, yes, but,
no, this is the clean budget. Here, but this is the clean budget, so, this will change slightly because we still have 2 more weeks of things to pay for, but, Lana tried to set this up here so you can see as close to as possible how the end of the year will shape out. And on that note, it is skipping it, we're on that. We do not have an answer on our excess levy appeal, and it's wild. So everyone else got theirs many weeks ago. Kelly Carrico in Union Township, her excess levy appeal was denied. She reappealed it, which you can do, and she actually won it. That has all happened, and we still haven't gotten our answer yet. And, but last week, was it last week or the week before?
the week before, I think.
2 weeks ago, we got an email from the DLGF lawyer asking us questions about the appeal,
Clarification.
like for clarification of things, and we were like, so we're kind of hopeful here that like, that's a good thing if they're asking questions that we might get something. We don't know, but
Yeah.
we do need an answer here because we don't technically have a budget for 2025. So I asked Steve Dalton about it and he said it is weird, but any moment we could get that email about it. When that does happen, whatever it is, we will want to come back and realign the budget according to whatever that is. Because basically they're going to say, this is what your new tax levy can be. So we're gonna wanna go back. But what's nice is things that we had to guesstimate back then, back in September, we actually know now. So now that we're doing the self-funding model, we know how much we need to estimate for insurance. We know how much needs to go to the fire territory versus us. So we will be able, regardless, we're gonna come back. We're not gonna ask you to pass a new budget because that would require public hearings and all that. Just the subline items.
Okay.
We'll go and reorder this to make the appropriations correct within these accounts. So that we can more accurately track things throughout the year. With the new fire territory, we feel like that will be especially important. So when we know something, you'll know something. We have not heard back
What was
on
the
that
name of
yet.
the organization?
DLGF, Department of Local Government.
I have a quick question. Now, we had talked about, some new employees. Are we still planning on that? We have to.
We have to wait. I mean,
Wait,
yeah.
yeah.
So one way or another, one thing Lana and I talked about, one way or another, we said the board's priority is the property inspection program, so
Mhm.
we will find a way to do that in some
Okay.
fashion or another.
Okay.
So bringing on property inspectors, probably part-time or
Right.
on, like maybe vendor, like as a vendor, we'll figure that out. But we know that we'll need to do that. That's the top of our list. And then it just depends on what the budget looks like, but we might,
Okay.
if we don't get the entire levy, we may come and ask for you to prioritize. Would you rather have a social worker in-house or the social security designee thing?
Okay,
That's a possibility that we come to you and say, we can't do both. Which would you rather have?
okay.
So to answer your question, no, we have not, again, we've not made any step
Well,
towards
we
any
can.
new hires.
We can.
Which is.
We feel like we
But
need
we're
help on the
still
front
planning.
desk. Yeah, we're still planning. I mean, we're sitting
Okay.
here, we're
Yeah.
ready to go. Jamie and I had a meeting with code enforcement
Mhm.
where we asked, how we could work together when we roll out the property. So we're greasing the skids here.
Out of curiosity, what are some of the input that code enforcement gave?
So we had a really great meeting with Liz up there who runs that property inspection
Mhm.
program there. She really liked what we had to say and what we were planning because how we positioned it was if you recall me saying, 1/3 of our referrals come from landlords.
Mhm.
So the landlord is basically saying to the tenant, go down to the township, they'll help you. So why is that? Well, they want their money. So our thought is, well, we're just gonna hit people. We're not gonna ask landlords to do the right thing for the right reason. We're gonna hit them where it counts the motivation.
Yeah.
We'll withhold rent from them, or at least, the threat of it. So she thought that made a lot of sense. We talked a lot about their processes and what they did. So one question I had for her was, okay, if we come in and we bring our property inspector and we say they got holes in the roof, we'll give them a week to fix that, and then they don't. I'd like our next step to be, that's fine, we're now not giving you this rent check and we're filing a complaint with code enforcement. So a question we have is, can we do that on behalf of the resident because they're afraid? And then she said, yeah, anybody can come and do that.
Mhm.
So we thought that was very interesting. So not only would we be withholding the rent from you, we're gonna rat you out to the guys that are gonna, he said they would fine them up to $250 a week
Okay.
in that scenario. So we thought it was a really great way to create that synergy is we've got a reason to get in there because that's their biggest problem is that people don't file complaints because they're afraid.
Right.
You're afraid.
But the landlords are the ones asking us to come in and they're agreeing to a property inspection. So, but really the number one goal would be to create a relationship with the
Okay.
landlords.
There's one other thing I would like us to create a relationship with, and that's South Bend Housing Authority.
Mhm.
Okay.
I've met with her.
And
Yeah.
technically, it's the equivalent for St. Joe County with I forget the name of it. Anyway, I'd like us to get a form set up where if they say we're not gonna pay for a place like Section 8, that we're notified,
Oh, I see, yes.
so
we get
that
lists.
we know.
That was one thing we did talk about. And when the city has the ability to condemn.
Mhm.
So we did talk about sharing data as in, we've inspected these buildings and said there's these problems and sending them a list.
Mhm.
Just saying these are our problems, but asking them to do the same. When they condemn a building, send us a list and let us know that
Right.
these are the ones that are uninhabitable. So I didn't even think to do that with South Bend Housing.
But I would like to see us done with South Bend Housing.
Absolutely.
And there are parts of, and I can't remember the name of the program, but it's the equivalent of Section 8 for the county. There's a Section 8,
There would have to be, yeah.
no, there is,
Yeah,
because I know
there
people who've
actually
been there. And we have the same agreement with them, so that, I know, Ryan, you're concerned about people getting kicked out of housing,
Yeah.
and I'm concerned about people burning up.
Well, there's a happy medium.
Right.
But we've gotta
that's the
find that
problem.
happy medium, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I will reach out to the housing and as. we
And
roll
I'll
this
send you
out-
the name of the county one.
Okay. That'd be great.
So I think, that is another way that it may be putting some fire under those landlords that aren't quite,
Didn't know the chemical really till now.
yeah. And I think what bought them out, while they never figured out why the kids burned up, just the mere fact that public housing took them off the Section 8 list,
Exactly.
that's enough for me.
Yep. I agree.
Exactly.
That would be my only request.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm, that's one of my things too. I mean, that whole situation is just like, It's just
Mhm.
messed up, cause I mean, yes, you hear about these things all the time, but you don't hear this, it's never that tragic and never that close.
That's right.
I mean, that's just my thing.
Hey, Alex, I just saw your email. The HR contract was on the email that you replied to. So if you go, it's one of the
Yes.
attachments. Okay.
Yeah,
You're
yeah, I
just
saw
saying
that.
you're
I
gonna
just want
take
to
a
make
look
sure
at
you
it?
didn't. Yeah, yeah. In case there's always a couple things that pop up in agreements like that. I want to make sure that that we have
Thanks. I
that
meant to give you a
addressed,
heads up,
that they might
but I would have had you look at it. I just wanted to make sure that they thought it was a good idea first.
Yep, gotcha.
Thank you. I didn't want to have to pay him unless we had to.
Is this free, Alex?
Hello?
I'm laughing with you.
So, I will work on that. I just sent myself a note to do that.
Okay,
We are expecting funds to be received from Southwest Fire Territory as well as Warren Township in the first couple weeks of January to help
Okay.
fund the fire department. We also got our, proposals back for the $4 million loan to the fire territory to get operations going. It's a bank out of Fishers. That was the
Okay.
lowest. So that is going to be funded on January 2nd. So we're good there, but you will see that fund. And, you will see that fund, you'll see those cash reserves. I'll get you all that too, Ryan, that those will count as cash reserves. I mean, it's basically gonna be money sitting in our account.
the next what, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
The next question I have is a question that legally we can do, not for the public. I wanna know where we're at with, them wanting to eminent domain.
Yep, no, I have that here. There's no update. There's no
Okay.
update on that right now. Our attorney has filed a motion to intervene and we have not heard back from it yet.
Okay,
I will send you updates via email as I get them on the fly,
Okay.
so you'll always have the most current up-to-date information.
Okay.
I didn't have anything else for these other items. I just had two other things I wanted to get the board's temperature with. As happens, people are getting the word that we're doing good things here. And so that means people come with asks. So I've got two interesting asks that I've got thoughts on, and we could have moved on, but again, I wanted to see what the board's opinion was.
Yeah.
Goodwill does an event every year called the Little Black Dress Fundraiser. It is an event where, they like, people come and model bougie clothing, but it's offered at a discount and.
Right, and it's supposedly from their,
That's right. It's
Donations.
donations. That's, yeah, but they pull these real nice stuff out and they sell it at this event. They do sponsorships of the event. Now, I've been in there now a few times and Jamie and I were in there yesterday with Kenneth Lee, and they're wanting to increase their partnership with us in general as it comes to their employment, their CTE stuff. They've got an automotive shop in there. I had no idea. It's really amazing stuff that they're doing. They're asking if we would, for us to be involved with this event as well as a sponsor. They said if we come up with a level that's not on there, they're happy to formulate a level around it. But I wanted to, chat it through with you guys before making a commitment.
well, I like what Goodwill does, cause a lot of the people that I do my stuff with are ex-offenders and things like
We talked
that.
about that quite a bit. They're
And,
adult, they're over at the Excel Center there. They're doing the adult education.
Right.
So what are you thinking? How much you thinking?
Well, I didn't even talk about this with Alana yet, so I'm gonna.
Just as a side note, I was thinking that for next year, it might be a good idea to just set aside a certain amount of money to support community.
We have that in the
projects.
budget. It's under community support.
Oh, it is?
Yep, that's what it's for.
Oh.
No, so I have this budgeted. I just wanna know what you thought. I mean, I didn't wanna.
Didn't we talk about that though? I'm like, man, I think after the whole football thing, I'm like.
So I have I didn't,
Kind of
is that,
fun.
did that go to the next page? Oh, it did go on to the next page. Oh, it's under community. There it is. I'm sorry, I meant to lead with that, but we can talk about that next. We can close the loop on this.
Sure.
I was thinking at least 2,500, but. That's a
Yeah,
chunk.
I mean, I think that you can, in a situation like this, that's where you would.
Of all organizations, I look at the ones that we are most closely aligned with what we do, and
Right.
Goodwill seems to be there.
I agree.
But if the board wanted to discuss more.
Because
need that
like,
budget back.
we do stuff for, with babies and all that Ryan had come up with.
Yeah.
And, so yes.
I'm definitely good with 2,500. If y'all want to
Me
do more,
too.
that's.
Comfortable with that?
Yeah, start with 2,500.
Well, again, we don't have our budget yet. It's kind of like, well, we're shooting in the dark.
Yeah,
a
when
little.
is this? Oh, April. Oh,
Yeah, but he's, he's asking now and that makes sense.
Right,
I mean, 2,500 seems reasonable.
Okay.
yes.
All right, well, thank you. I didn't do that then. I just didn't wanna. It's me. Pop Warner got a phone call from our board member, Mohammed Shabazz, asking if we would consider supporting the Pop Warner football team that was going to nationals. So I had a conversation with their leader there, and the kids really worked hard to get down there, and they were coming up a little short on the fundraising goal, so we did cut a check for 200, 500.
I think 500.
They needed $2,000 and,
Well, I'm all for that. I can just tell you that the little girl that's like my granddaughter, they went one year from South Bend and it was expensive. And at least I know with her mother, she's on disability.
sure.
Okay. And there was another kid or two who were like, it was just mom. And I think there was one with just dad. So for something like that,
Yeah, they were trying to raise 22,000.
You know how they did? How
And
they showed up?
I'm not sure, but the problem was, this didn't even come out to the folks until like a week before.
For the
Like,
event.
they have a deadline in a week, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Where were they thinking they were gonna get the money before then?
well, I know from when Katie went,
There's no line on.
it was a bunch of parents, okay,
Mhm.
who had no idea how to raise money.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
Some
seriously.
candy bars.
Right.
I told
They
them
were
they
trying to
had to
fund the
get
trip with
funded.
things like that, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, and that one.
Oh, yeah.
Keep
I
in
have to-
mind, everyone, we're still recording.
Mohammed, I think this one, if Cheryl can sign that one, I think this one for travel, it just to be the president on the bottom. Here, you need another.
Mhm.
And Katie was one of the few girls nationwide. They have girls now, which is interesting. One team refused to play them because Katie was on the team. And it was so funny because with a helmet on, you don't know she's a girl. And then you
So-
pull off the helmet.
On the,
And
in the bottom,
Okay.
it says township authorization.
then on the bottom,
Two more items, if you guys are done there.
Yeah.
Let me go over this one first. This I think is really cool and cute. This is from the Black Student Union at Ivy Tech, and they are planning I'm really loving how Martin Luther King Day is becoming more and more of a.
not a day off.
That's right, yeah, and so here you go, Ryan. So they put together this proposal, and what they want to do is focus on unsheltered individuals. They want to provide them with new undergarments, gently used coats, hygiene products. They want to do health screenings, grooming services, and provide them with a hot meal. They're partnering with, a few other places to do this, but they are asking for funding. They worked with Carl Hetler with the city of South Bend to put together this proposal. And I just thought it was kind of the coolest thing that they were doing this. So the total funding request is, and sorry, Lana, you haven't seen this yet either. I just got it today. $2,767. They're not asking us to fund the whole thing, but they list out, clothing and hygiene is $517, outerwear for $750. So just wanted to put it in front of you and see what your guys' thoughts were. We are already going to have a table. We are supporting the Martin Luther King Day event with a table. I'll get an email off you guys if you want to join for breakfast. And we will have a vendor table there as well, if you guys would like to help work that table. This is in addition to that. So I made no commitments here.
Well, I think we
Sounds good to
should.
me, it's.
Yeah.
Well, they're not, their total cost is 2,700.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a little salty for us to,
Well, that's the.
maybe it's
total
good for them to go around and other organizations. I don't know. What do you think? Like,
I think they should try to.
I'd love to be able to do the whole thing, but it's January and I don't want to be out of money in January.
Right. Well, I say we do this and definitely, I think we could do all the hygiene products because we give out hygiene stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And contribute toward the non-perishable foods.
Well, I mean, we could do like 1,000 of it,
Yeah.
and that still gives them a little like incentive to go around and raise with
Fine
others
with
and
me.
build those connections.
Yeah.
Oh, do you not have one of these on? Jeez.
I don't, and then
Sorry.
seeing what Cheryl has on her left hand, too. I think it's just one of those signed one.
What do I have on my hand?
Sorry.
I don't know, let me see if he's.
I mean, they have community partners already, you know, we have the.
And I can have a conversation with them before anything, but I just thought this was really cool.
Signature.
that they were doing this.
And if we buy in socks, can we buy our socks from Bombas? Since, you know, they
Oh.
donate socks when you buy socks.
I thought we were just giving money and let them go buy, buy what they
I'm
need.
just saying, those are real comfortable socks too. Yeah, I got some.
Well, I'll have a chat with them. I just want to make sure this is something you guys
Yeah.
think we should support.
I mean, I figure we pick the things that we would do normally for someone,
Yeah,
like
that's a
the
good-
hygiene,
So we don't do hot meals, so somebody else
Right,
do
so-
hot meals. Yeah.
so, you know, the food, the general outerwear, that's a clothing item. So, yeah,
Okay,
but I want our name attached
yep, I get it.
to something.
Yeah, I know.
So that when they get it, there might be a little, I don't know, piece tied to the item that says courtesy of.
I'll make sure that that's included.
Yeah,
I thought this was really cool.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
So have you thought about having a member at the, Martin Luther King? Or, you know, the whole thing that Gladys come do, they meet about what, once a month?
Never been asked to in 15 years now, so.
Yeah, I used to, but I didn't get anything this year, so I was just thinking about it
I used
today.
to.
I haven't heard nothing about it except right
It's been years.
Somebody, it'd be nice, yeah.
I didn't even see anything up about it, so I don't know.
Do you want me to contact Gladys and them?
I actually emailed Gladys earlier today about another thing that's going on, so I can just give them a call tomorrow.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I'll let you know if I hear anything.
I think this is a
I
good
just got,
idea.
I just got, the Jessica Kitchens always sends the vendor
Mhm,
request
yeah.
stuff. She sent it to me and we just automatically just put our thing. The other thing is, you probably haven't seen it yet, but, you got an email that, I had a meeting with Notre Dame, the architectural something with Regina put together.
Mhm.
And they're starting to look at just little projects within the community they can do, and they're working with Consuela Hopkins, who I'm a big fan of her. And they're wanting to put a like mobile charging station up on the coal line trail so that folks can, they identified a problem, which actually we run into, that people have cell phones
Mhm.
and they're applying for jobs, but they don't get the call back because the cell phone ran out of power, ran out of
Right.
juice. Believe it or not, we actually have that happen a lot here in the office,
Right.
when we're calling folks for interviews. So they're wanting to set up, if you look at the email, it's just talk right now. But they want to set up some sort of solar powered place for people to sit, be sheltered from the elements on the corner of the street there and, charge their devices, blah, blah, blah. So I said that I would kind of chat with you guys about it. If one of you want to go to the meetings as they're talking about this, I'd be more than welcome to pass your name along. But I said that we'd be interested in talking, like I thought, like you just said, I thought, yeah, there's some booth sitting there, if it's just some sort of booth and a bench and we can put Portage
Right.
Township on it with our stuff, like, that sounds cheap.
You know, the crazy thing is, it's the same thing at the Charles Black Center. When they built these places, they built it's like a pavilion over this thing, which I actually thought was going to be solar panels on top.
Oh, interesting.
But they're not. I guess they're just there to cover you from the sun.
Well, like I said, they would put together the whole,
Right.
it's just talk, but the email went out today and I forwarded it to all three of you. And if it's something that tickles you in the right spot and you want to join it, let me know.
Yeah, I'd be interested in finding out more about that. And it's funny because I saw this and I actually called Carl today to talk about homeless resources. And also that thing that we had mentioned with trying to build up some things around here for people. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought, I first looked, I was like, oh, something over here.
Oh, yeah, no, it's over on the coal line trail. So,
Yeah.
Consuela is very involved in her sort of local area there. And so I think she's.
Of course, I think that's a great idea. I think that I don't think you can have enough.
I'll keep pursuing it, but if somebody if you want to come to the meetings, just let me know. Like I'll loop you in and.
I'd be interested in that.
Well, I'm not gonna say no for you. I knew Ryan'd be interested.
I'm just gonna say no.
Well, he might not have been. I don't know. This might not be for everybody. All right, those are all my items. except for-
Oh, my last question. I
Sure.
had a question and I forgot it, so I'll think
Well,
of
you're gonna be
it.
with me the next couple hours. so-
Yes, and I'll think of it.
Okay.
You're lucky enough. Thank you, sir.
I think we're done. Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready to adjourn. I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
December 17, 2024, Portage Township Board.
Oh, I just want to tell y'all, that
Bye, Alex.
Todd is passing out the thermometers
Oh, good.
and everything.